6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Sounditavam. International Workers' Day falls today. The President says that as promised to the people, the government has safeguarded national security and sovereignty. The Premier said that the International Workers' Day, which has started to win workers' rights, is the greatest day of the working people. The opposition leader says that May Day comes at a time when the entire human race is in the midst of a catastrophe caused by the coronavirus. Sri Lanka recorded the highest number of coronavirus cases reported in a single day for the fourth consecutive day yesterday. 4,087 persons who did not follow health guidelines and quarantine regulations have been arrested up to now. The stock of coconut oil, which contains aflatoxin carcinogenic substances, will be re-exported. In world news, Afghanistan car bomb kills 30 at guest house in Logar province. International Workers' Day, also known as Labour Day, falls today. This day celebrates a protest which was held in 1886, requesting the 8-hour working day in Chicago, United States. In 1889, an International Federation of Socialist Groups and Trade Unions designated May 1st as a day in support of workers in commemoration of the Haymarket riot in Chicago. 5 years later, U.S. President Grover Cleveland, uneasy with the socialist origins of Workers' Day, signed legislation to make Labour Day. Issuing a message on International Workers' Day, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that as promised to the people, the government has safeguarded the national security and sovereignty. Similarly, the government has ensured that no harm would befall our national legacy and heritage. Steps are being taken to implement policies for a growth of the local industries and agriculture-based economies. A clear, well-defined economic plan has been formulated and implemented to eradicate poverty, which is the biggest burden faced by a substantial segment of the working class. The President, in his message, said that the working community is one of the most adversely affected groups in the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has clearly understood the reality faced by our working masses. Hence, the government is working with commitment to ensure better living standards for its citizens without imposing limitations that obstruct economic activities of the working people. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, issuing a message to mark May Day, appreciated the commitment and efforts of the working people towards achieving socio-economic development even in the face of an unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. In his message, the Premier said that the International Workers' Day, which has started to win workers' rights, is the greatest day of the working people. The commitment made by the working masses for the betterment not only of their country in general, but of the world as a whole, has always been highly commendable. As we all know, International Workers' Day is a day to show the world the strength and unity of the working masses. During this May Day, celebrated under the theme, A People-Friendly Workplace, a Safe Country, he said that he firmly believes that the working masses will work together to uplift the local economy. The Premier added that he appreciates the commitment to work day and night for socio-economic development, even in the face of the unprecedented COVID-19 epidemic, and extended his gratitude for the contribution to controlling the epidemic. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, in his May Day message, said that the working class is suffering extreme circumstances due to the COVID-19 pandemic, while the government is only pursuing its own political agendas. The message added that this time, May Day comes at a time when the entire human race is in the midst of a catastrophe caused by the coronavirus. The world has been suffering this pandemic for 2 years. It is difficult to find a time in the last century when the world economy has been so severely affected. As a result, the working class has become increasingly vulnerable. Billions of people have lost their jobs and their daily lives are in a complete disarray. In the midst of this catastrophe, we pay our respects to all the working class people who are currently tirelessly working for the survival of our motherland. Sri Lanka recorded the highest number of coronavirus cases reported in a single day for the fourth consecutive day yesterday. A total of 1,662 individuals tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday, increasing the country's caseload to 108,146. 1,636 individuals were identified as part of the New Year coronavirus cluster, while 26 individuals who arrived from overseas also tested positive for the virus. 532 individuals recovered from the virus and were discharged, raising recoveries to 95,975. At present, 11,493 individuals are being treated for the coronavirus in hospitals and treatment centres. Sri Lanka's coronavirus-related death toll rose to 678 yesterday, with the confirmation of 11 fatalities. The Government Information Department said 4 females, 46, 64, 67 and 79 years of age, and 7 males, aged 51, 53, 65, 76, 77, 82 and 94 were among the deceased. The individuals were identified as residents of Piliyandala, Colombo, Kalaniya, Battala, Kalutara, Matale, Dehiyattakandiya, Dulapitiya, Papiliyavala and Anuradhapura. The 11 succumbed to the COVID-19 infection and pneumonia and other health complications. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Receive early cash advances and an unmatchable bonus at maturity from Sri Lanka Insurance Early Cash.
The police say that 4,087 persons who did not follow health guidelines and quarantine regulations have been arrested up to now. 187 persons were arrested yesterday alone. The police say that this process will continue further. The stock of coconut oil, which contains aflatoxin carcinogenic substances, will be re-exported. Accordingly, the stock of 230 metric tons of coconut oil, which does not have the approval from the Sri Lanka Standards Institute, will be exported to Malaysia. Sergeant-at-Arms Narendra Fernando yesterday said that leaders of political parties representing Parliament decided to take up the debate on the Port City Economic Commission Bill on Wednesday. He said that the debate will take place from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. It was also decided to take up an adjournment debate on the current pandemic situation in the country on Tuesday. The party leaders have also decided to hold sessions for only 2 hours during the next parliamentary week. And that concludes local news.
Finished? You have 1 more hour to write the exam.
Yes, sir. Always early.
Receive early cash advances and an unmatchable bonus at maturity from Sri Lanka Insurance Early Cash.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Veda Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi said steps have been taken to provide intensive care services at the John Kotalawala Defence University Hospital to critically ill patients of the third COVID-19 wave currently spreading across the country. Accordingly, 3 intensive care units of the John Kotalawala Defence University Hospital will be allocated for the intensive care of COVID patients, and 24 ICU beds and 12 high-dependency beds have been set up in these units to provide all facilities, including high-flow oxygen, the minister said. The Minister of Health, Pavitra Vanyarachi, paid a special visit to the John Kotalawala Defence University Hospital recently to inquire into the matter. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Army Commander, General Shavendra Silva, said all events, including weddings, would not be allowed for a period of 2 weeks from Monday, the 3rd of May. He told the media that the decision was taken considering the alarming increase in the COVID-19 cases, and that came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news in the headlines, Afghanistan car bomb kills 30 at guest house in Logar province. Biden bans most travel to the US from India to limit COVID-19 spread. Israel crush, Netanyahu promises inquiry as the first victims are buried. High school students are among 30 people killed in a car bombing in Afghanistan. The bomb went off late yesterday, close to a guest house where the students were reportedly staying in Pul-e-Alam, the capital of eastern Logar province. Dozens of people were hurt. Witnesses described roofs collapsing and victims being trapped under the debris. No group has said it was behind the blast, as people broke their fast in the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Afghanistan has seen a surge in violence since US President Joe Biden announced US troops would withdraw by the 11th of September. A number of buildings were damaged in the explosion at about 1900 hours local time, including the civilian guest house. US President Joe Biden yesterday imposed new travel restrictions on India in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, barring most non-US citizens from entering the United States. The White House said the new restrictions, which take effect on Tuesday, May 4th, are on the advice of the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and were imposed because the magnitude and scope of the COVID-19 pandemic in India was surging. Biden yesterday signed a proclamation implementing the restrictions, which are first reported by Reuters. The proclamation said India accounts for over one-third of the new global cases and added that proactive measures are required to protect the nation's public health from travelers entering the United States from India. Families in Israel have begun burying their loved ones after at least 45 people died in a crush at a crowded Jewish festival overnight. Some 150 people were also injured at the Lag BiOmer festival near Mount Meron, where people became trapped in an overcrowded passageway. Funerals were allowed to take place for the victims who were positively identified. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised that an inquiry would ensure that such a tragedy did not happen again. Visiting the scene, he said it was one of the worst peacetime disasters the country had known. Back to the headlines of the world news. Afghanistan car bomb kills 30 at guest house in Logar province. Biden bans most travel to the US from India to limit COVID-19 spread. And Israel crush. Netanyahu promises inquiry as first victims are buried. That concludes this bulletin of world news, and on to development news. The Asian Development Bank's flagship annual economic publication, the Asian Development Outlook 2021, forecasts a significant rebound in Sri Lanka's economy as domestic and global economic activity strengthens and vaccination campaigns gather momentum domestically and abroad. The ADB projects Sri Lanka's economic growth to rise by 4.1% in 2021 and moderate to 3.6% in 2022. Growth in the near term will come from increased private consumption supported by low interest rates and as pent-up demand is released, as well as recovery in investment supported by low interest rates, stronger global demand and base effect following contraction in 2020. That's development news, and on to sports. This year's 2020 World Cup could be moved to the United Arab Emirates if India continues to suffer with the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic. The tournament is due to begin in October, but the COVID death toll in India has passed 200,000, with at least 300,000 new infections every day in the past week. Last week, India joined the UK's travel red list, effectively banning travel to and from the country. Other countries, including Australia, have also closed their borders to India. That came to in sports news. We look at business news next.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The ambassador of Sri Lanka to the Sultanate of Oman, Amir Ajwad, met with the Chief Executive Officer Saleh M. Al-Shanfari of the Oman Food Investment Holding Company and had a productive discussion on the promotion of bilateral trade in the food sector between Sri Lanka and the Sultanate of Oman. They also explored new areas of mutual cooperation in the food sector and agreed to connect B2B links between the Oman Food Investment Holding Company and the food sector companies in Sri Lanka. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
A Sri Lankan delegation headed by the State Minister of Finance, Capital Market and State Enterprise Reforms, Ajit Niwad Cabral, visited the state of Qatar recently. The Embassy of Sri Lanka in Doha organized a series of meetings for State Minister Cabral and the accompanying Sri Lankan delegation from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan delegation, led by the State Minister, met with the Minister of Finance of the State of Qatar, Ali Sharif Al-Imadi, and discussed issues of mutual interest, agreed to examine the ways and means to expand economic cooperation between the two countries and investment opportunities for Qatari companies in Sri Lanka. That's economic news.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.